The wind moved gently through the trees at Heartland Ranch. Horses stood still in the fields. Amy was brushing Spartan, but her hands suddenly froze. She heard footsteps, slow, steady, coming from the barn behind her. Her heart skipped a beat. For a moment, time stopped. She knew those footsteps. She had heard them hundreds of times before. Could it be? Her chest tightened. She turned slowly, not knowing what she would see. And there, just for a second, a shadow in the doorway reminded her of someone she had lost long ago. It was early, morning. Amy was in the stable feeding the horses, trying to stay busy. Since Ty's death, mornings had been the hardest. That's when they used to talk the most, over coffee, over chores. But now it was just her, the horses, and memories that never faded. She heard a noise behind her, footsteps, not hurried, not loud, but familiar. She turned quickly, her eyes wide. A man stood near the barn door. He wore a brown jacket and a cowboy hat, standing in the light so that his face was hidden in shadow. Amy couldn't speak. Her mouth was open, but no words came out. The man didn't move for a moment. He just stood there, watching her. For a second, her whole body believed something impossible. Her mind said no, but her heart said yes. Amy took a slow step forward. Her breathing was fast now, but then the man stepped into the light, and it wasn't him. It was an old friend of Ty's, someone from the past. His name was Paul, a quiet man who had worked with Ty during his vet days. Amy was confused. What was he doing here? Paul removed his hat and gave her a sad smile. "Sorry to scare you, Amy," he said. "Didn't mean to bring back memories like that." Amy tried to smile back, but her hands were shaking. She nodded, holding back tears. "It's okay," she whispered. But it wasn't. Paul had come to give her something, a box. It was old, dusty, and clearly untouched for years. "Ty gave this to me to hold," Paul said softly. "He told me, if anything ever happened to him, I should bring it here. But I didn't know when the right time was. Until now." Amy stared at the box. Her fingers brushed the lid, but she didn't open it. Not yet. Her heart wasn't ready. Instead, she brought the box into the house, placed it on the table, and sat silently across from it. Later that night, Amy couldn't sleep. The house was too quiet. The shadows were too loud. She walked into the living room where the box sat untouched. She sat down again, took a deep breath, and finally opened it. Inside were things only Ty could have left behind. A small notebook, some photos of him and Lindy, and something folded, like a letter. Amy picked up the letter slowly. Her fingers trembled. She unfolded it and saw Ty's handwriting. She read the first line out loud, her voice barely more than a whisper. "For the day you miss me most." Amy's chest tightened. The words blurred as tears filled her eyes. She clutched the letter to her heart and began to cry. But something strange happened that night. After crying herself to sleep on the couch, Amy had a dream. It wasn't like normal dreams. It was clear, almost real. She was walking in the fields near the house, and Ty was standing there. He smiled at her. Not a ghost, not a shadow, but Ty, alive and well. He didn't speak. He just looked at her with soft eyes, like he used to when he wanted to tell her he loved her without using words. Amy took a step toward him, but before she could reach out, she woke up. The dream shook her to her core. It felt too real, too perfect. And when she looked outside the window, the morning sun was just rising, and in the sky a single hawk flew across the ranch. Amy remembered something Ty used to say. Hawks don't just fly anywhere. They come when you need to remember something important. She sat there quietly for a while, clutching the letter and staring at the sky. Maybe Ty was gone. But maybe not entirely. Amy walked through the ranch like a ghost. Everyone around, Her thought she was doing better, but inside she was falling apart. She smiled when Jack made jokes. She nodded when Lou asked how she was doing. But none of it was real. Every corner of the house, every fence post, every quiet morning, everything reminded her of Ty. One evening, when everyone was asleep, Amy went up to the attic. It had been months since she touched anything there. The air smelled of dust and old wood. She moved slowly, as if her heart would break if she walked too fast. In one of the boxes, she found it. Ty's old jacket. The one he used to wear when they went riding together. It still smelled like him. That familiar mix of leather, horse sweat, and cedar wood. She sat down, held the jacket close, and didn't say a word. Her body trembled. Her lips quivered. And then quietly at first, the tears began to fall. Amy didn't cry loudly. She didn't scream. She just let the pain pour out like a river that had been blocked for too long. She rocked back and forth, holding the jacket like it was him. For the first time since Ty's death, she allowed herself to fully break. She wasn't just missing her husband. She was missing her best friend, her partner, the father of her daughter, the life they were building, the future that never got a chance. The next morning, Jack found her asleep in the attic, wrapped in the jacket like a child. He didn't say anything. He just sat beside her and waited for her to wake up. When she did, her eyes were swollen, but calm. "Why does it still hurt this much?" she asked him in a soft voice. Jack didn't rush his answer. He looked straight ahead, his hands folded, his voice low and steady. "Because you loved him right," Jack said. "And when you love someone like that, they don't leave easily. Not from your heart." Amy leaned on his shoulder, and they sat in silence. Jack didn't try to fix her. He didn't give her false hope. He just gave her what she needed, someone to sit beside her in the dark without telling her to move on. Later that day, Lou came by with Lindy. She wanted Amy to come out and get some fresh air. Amy agreed, even though she didn't feel ready. While Lindy played with the horses, Amy walked into the barn alone. She saw Ty's saddle hanging in its usual place. Dust had started to settle on it. Without thinking, she reached out and brushed it off. That simple act, touching the saddle, sent another wave of emotion through her. She bent her head down and whispered, "I don't know how to do this without you." That's when she heard something behind her. It was Lindy. The little girl had quietly followed her. She looked at her mom and asked, "Why are you crying, Mama?" Amy wiped her tears and knelt down. "I just miss Daddy," she said. Lindy nodded as if she understood something even grown-ups couldn't. "I miss him too, but he's not all gone. I saw him in my dream. He smiled at me." Amy's heart skipped a beat. She held Lindy close. That night, something strange happened. Amy found a letter in Lindy's toy box. She didn't remember putting it there. The handwriting was Ty's. Another letter. This one shorter. Just a few lines. "If you're reading this, it means I'm still with you. Not the way we hoped. But I'm not gone. You'll feel me in the wind. You'll hear me in Lindy's laughter. You'll see me in the horses we raised together. Love never leaves." Amy clutched the paper to her chest. She cried again, but this time the tears were different. They were full of pain, yes, but also something new. Peace. She wasn't healed, she wasn't okay, but she wasn't alone either. The storm inside Amy was quieting but not gone. Days passed slowly, and while she tried to move forward, something always pulled her back. But Amy wasn't the only one who felt it. Lindy, so small, so innocent, was noticing things too. She had started talking about her dad more. At first it was just questions. What was Daddy's favorite horse? Or did Daddy ever fall off? But then came something stranger. One night after dinner, while Amy was tucking her into bed, Lindy whispered, "Mama, I saw Daddy yesterday." Amy froze. You saw him in a picture? Lindy shook her head. No, in my dream. He was real. He talked to me. He said I'm strong just like you. Amy felt a chill crawl up her arms. She didn't know what to say. Maybe it was just a dream, or maybe Lindy was feeling something Amy couldn't explain. The next morning, Amy took Lindy for a walk near the paddock. They stopped near Ty's favorite tree. Lindy looked up at the sky and smiled. That's where he is. He watches from there. Amy followed her gaze. The sky was bright, cloudless and still. A quiet wind moved through the grass. Later that day, Amy found Lindy alone in the barn. She was talking to Ty's old saddle, her little fingers tracing the leather. Amy watched silently from the doorway. Lindy said, "It's okay, Daddy. Mama's still sad, but I'm being brave for her." Amy gasped quietly. Her hand covered her mouth, eyes full of emotion. She walked over and knelt beside Lindy. "What are you doing, sweetheart?" "I was just talking to Daddy," Lindy answered calmly. "He listens when I talk here." Amy didn't question it. She didn't try to explain it away. Maybe children understood things adults had forgotten. Maybe grief had given Lindy a way to stay connected to the father she barely remembered. That night, Lindy came to Amy's room. She held a small drawing in her hand. It showed a man with a beard, holding a little girl's hand. Above them was a big sun and a tree with a heart on it. "This is me and Daddy," Lindy said, smiling. "We were standing at the tree. He said he never really left." Amy took the drawing and stared at it. She traced the heart on the tree and felt something deep inside her shift. Maybe this wasn't just Lindy's imagination. Maybe Ty was still here in the ways that mattered. Through dreams, through signs, through the unbreakable bond between a father and his daughter. Later, Amy went to the barn and looked at Ty's old saddle again. She remembered the way he used to lift Lindy up, place her in the saddle and whisper, "One day you'll ride like the wind." Amy closed her eyes. In that moment, she could hear his voice, clear as day. She opened her eyes and found Lindy watching her from the barn door. "He's here, Mama. I feel him when I close my eyes." Amy knelt down and hugged her tight. "I believe you," she whispered. "I really do." Outside, a hawk flew across the sky once more, silent, strong, and steady. Lindy looked up and pointed. "See? That's Daddy's bird." Amy didn't question it. She just smiled with tears in her eyes, because maybe the greatest kind of love is the one that never stops showing up, even when the person is gone. The sun was beginning to set behind the hills of Heartland, casting golden light across the fields. Jack stood alone by the corral, leaning on the old fence with his hat pulled low over his brow. He hadn't said much all week, but he'd seen everything. Amy's quiet tears, Lindy's strange connection, the heaviness that had returned to the ranch like a shadow. He had known loss too well in his lifetime. And he also knew, sometimes, people need space before they're ready to listen. Amy approached him slowly, holding a mug of coffee in her hand. She didn't say anything at first. She just stood beside him, breathing in the silence. After a long moment, Jack spoke. "You know, I still talk to Lindy sometimes," he said softly. "Out here when no one's around." Amy looked at him with surprise. Jack didn't often speak about his late wife. "I never see her," he continued. "Not like a ghost or a dream, but I feel her. In the wind, in the way the horses move, in the way the leaves rustle before a storm. She's there." Amy nodded slowly. "Lindy says she sees Ty, talks to him like he's right there." Jack gave a small smile. "Kids know things we forget when we grow up. We try to explain everything. They just feel it." Amy's eyes welled up again, but she didn't cry this time. "It just hurts, Jack. It still hurts so much." Jack placed a hand on her shoulder. "That's how you know you loved him right." That evening, they went to the Ridge, Ty's favorite spot on the ranch. Jack brought his old guitar, and Amy brought Ty's letters. Lindy followed quietly, holding her mother's hand. They sat, under the sky, which was painted with shades of orange, purple, and fading blue. The wind was calm. The world felt still. Jack strummed a quiet tune. Nothing fancy, just a soft melody that floated in the air like a whisper. Amy unfolded the last letter from Ty. This one was different. It wasn't written for her or for Lindy. It was written to Heartland. This land gave me peace, it gave me purpose, and it gave me a family I didn't know I needed. If I'm gone, don't be sad too long. Take care of the horses. Ride often, love fully, and never forget that I found my home here, not just in the ranch, but in you. Amy read the letter out loud. Her voice cracked, but she kept going. When she finished, the silence that followed wasn't heavy. It was peaceful. Lindy stood up and walked to the edge of the ridge. She looked up at the stars, then whispered, "Good night, Daddy." Amy joined her and whispered the same words. Jack didn't speak. He just tipped his hat toward the sky. In the distance, a breeze moved through the grass. The sound was soft, like someone breathing out a long goodbye. Amy closed her eyes and let the wind touch her face. In that moment, something lifted. The pain was still there, but it didn't feel like a cage anymore. It felt like a scar, something that would always be there, but wouldn't stop her from living. As they walked back down toward the house, Lindy looked up at her mother and said, "I think Daddy's proud of you." Amy smiled, a real warm, deep smile, the kind that hadn't touched her face in a long time. And just above them, as if on cue, the night sky twinkled with a little more brightness, because love, real love, never really says goodbye. It just finds new ways to stay.